Today's episode, we are going to talk about AI and my thoughts about AI, coming from a corporate background, creative background, government, private sector. I'm much later on in my career, in my life. What did I believe in AI when it first came out and what I actually believe now, and was I right in what I thought? So when I saw AI about a year ago, I basically thought it was a little step change in the world of creativity. I didn't really look at it from a perspective of managing companies or managing processes and people, because at the time I think AI had a bit of a gentle start. It started off with, let's make cool pictures or generate imagery, funny faces of people that, you input a picture in and you get out another picture. And then also it had a little basic ability to do video. Copywriting, it was okay, but it was mostly write something and then we'll rewrite it in a certain way. We'll make it more corporate, a bit more creative. That was AI, and that was what I tended to experiment with, a bit of writing, bit of imagery. 12 months on, it's completely changed. I used to be a coder. In the old days, I really wanted to get into the internet business on the side. I was working as a corporate guy in treasury and then consulting. And I kind of started off doing a bit of coding myself, front-end, HTML, CSS. I explored back-end stuff with Drupal, Joomla, database functions and software. Bit of SQL, didn't really get into it, didn't really understand it that well. 6 months on, I've actually started to code, ship things. I built stuff in blockchain. I built stuff in a sort of SaaS world, explored creative concepts, corporate concepts, and as coding gets much easier and more efficient, you can actually understand the whole web development thing better. You can use AI to also teach you that, which is great. Creativity wise, it's the pictures are getting better, the imagery is much more clear, succinct, especially with words. I always had a problem with words. When I try and do a thumbnail for a YouTube video, I'd always spell my words wrong, which I always thought was quite interesting. But I think it's much better now. You can actually deliver imagery, thumbnails, even put your own picture, and it will take your picture and put it into a situation where it looks like you're actually almost doing thumbnails, active thumbnails. I'm planting a tree or I'm, climbing a mountain or whatever. So interesting stuff. Mostly I'm using it for code and shipping stuff. I've entered 2 hackathons. My first 2 was really cool. I built the first one, FS app, based around tokenization of real world assets. Didn't really build a lot on the back end, but it was decent for an initial thing. And then the second one actually built something a bit more concrete. And I've since developed that hackathon idea into still an MVP, but I built it out a bit further. And every day I'm kind of adding to it brick by brick. So that's become quite an interesting concept. But every day I've been just sitting on the computer and building, different ideas, different applications. I built one around energy, which I've been focusing on, supporting young people getting back into work. There's a new energy idea I pitched to a VC. And then I also had an idea around my community of filmmakers, which I've run for 20 years, most recently online, initially in real life. And we're trying to go back to the in real life events. And through that community, we've built quite a lot of stuff. So I've pitched for a VC around that too, where we want to build out the global indie filmmaker network into a platform. As the recent Obsession film has shown, we've had a big rise in interest in independent film again, which is fantastic. But we still have big issues in the UK industry around people getting access to funding, getting access to opportunities in the film industry, space to grow and change and evolve and innovate. And I think, especially with the increasing reduction in the big players, because they're obviously all merging. Paramount bought Warner Brothers, and now the Ellison family controls quite a lot of the world's tech, because a lot of the AI stuff is built on, they need the database technology Oracle has, Larry Ellison runs. And then you've also got his son, David Ellison, I think, who runs Paramount, Skydance, and he's now taken over Warner Brothers. They also own most of the media TV stations now and other stuff. They control a lot of the media, which rightly or wrongly, that's whatever you believe. Consolidation will result in a reduction in jobs. Warner Brothers, I think, will let go of a lot of people. AI also will lead to that. Independent film becoming more interesting. I'm seeing more and more podcasts emerging with professional news anchors going into that. I think a lot of the media world, professional people are starting YouTube channels, and that's really interesting too. The independent film is quite interesting. The energy thing's interesting. I built, just looking at my GitHub now, I would say, I've learned how to use GitHub now, by the way. Learned exactly what GitHub is for. Here I've got probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, that's a duplicate. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, about 23 startup ideas I've basically built platforms for. I've developed new ideas and I've tested them out as MVPs and pushed them out. So they're the things I've shipped. I mean, just to tell you what I've shipped as projects, I've got some personal projects where I've sort of listed what I've been working on. I've got a meditation app. I've got a global art project, an idea around art and technology evolution. I've got a venture capital firm that I'm developing ideas around, and I've got my wellness app. I've got a hackathon thing that I built, which is the RWA tokenization of real world assets. I've got a journaling app that I learned how to code that into an Apple app. So I'm now an Apple developer on the program, but I haven't launched the app yet because certain EU requirements that I'm trying to dot the I's and cross the T's over. Another one, which is more of an agent style platform, building AI agents, podcast-y thing, which it's today's first episode, which I'm also developing into a SaaS model around information and technology. I've got a data layer, memory layer for AI infrastructure that I'm quite bullish on, project that I can't really go into. I've got the film industry one. I've got the Forge of the Soul community, which is the name of my coaching book. Built the energy company idea. I've got my film company, production company database, a world of AI agents that I've built into this sort of universe. That's another one that I've developed. I've got a fashion sort of style app from AI, just the ability to code. I've asked AI to ask me interview questions because I don't have a guest today. So often much better with guests. I'm the guest on the first episode, I guess, because I don't really know what I'm doing. Best thing, first principles, just jump in and see what you can deliver. So those are the things I've shipped. So which of these would have been impossible for one person a few years ago? I would say pretty much all of them. I'm not a coder. I think it would have been possible for one person if I was a proper developer. I would tell a lie. I would say probably about 4 or 5 I've actually built myself a few years ago anyway, because they are just like front end websites, and I've used the database builders, the website builders. Talk about vibe coding today, but we used to have sort of vibe coding building blocks in the old days. We used to have Wix, and we had, drag and drop websites, we used to call them. So we had those obviously, but they were like interesting. What did each one really cost me in time and money and mistakes? So I made mistakes, obviously. The code makes mistakes, the agents, the AI coders make mistakes, and you just have to reiterate and do iterations of it until the issues are gone. What it cost me in time, I would say probably about 4 or 5 days full time for building each one out to where they are today. Some I built in half a day, which is pretty fantastic. And then in addition to that, in terms of money, obviously domain costs, some costs to pay for the back end. You've got email capture agents, you've got AI tools you have to pay for, like the pro versions like Claude, maybe ChatGPT. Gemini I've already got pro because I use Gmail for my email hosting, and I've got Google Workspace, so that helps me because then at least Gemini doesn't slow down. Like when you reach capacity on Claude and ChatGPT, it kind of locks the system, but Gemini just carries on. So that's what it really cost me. I would say I've probably spent about £500 to £1,000 so far, and I've had a friend who's been an angel who's helped me on some of those costs. What's really changed? What did I stop needing once I needed a whole team for? Well, yeah, marketing, development, social media stuff, developer, designer. What's the moment from these 6 months really shocked me the most? I would say what shocked me the most was around the speed of execution, the ability for Claude especially to help you. I didn't use Claude Code, which is almost like an agent that will connect with your own computer and just generate the code and run it itself, because I kind of wanted to use the AI model to interact with and kind of learn as I went along. So I'm not just relying on this this agent, this artificial intelligence to do everything. I kind of want to learn what he's doing. And so when he does stuff, I'm like, well, what does that mean? And how does this work? And so I can iterate my own brain as well as we go along, right? When did AI feel like magic and when did it feel like a confident liar? Well, I think the magical part is how quickly it can churn out really good designed websites. I think the lying bit is when the hallucination, it just makes decisions sometimes based on what it thinks you want versus what you've actually said. So that's a bit annoying at times. What problems that it doesn't never touch and stuff like that. There are issues that it doesn't understand, like when you have to react with humans or up-to-date information, it sometimes gets wrong. That's a problem too. Sometimes it'll say something and it's wrong because up-to-date information, like it said, Elon didn't own Cursor, for example. And I know for a fact SpaceX AI, it's called now, has actually bought Cursor. Why does nobody selling AI talk about the friction? Well, I think, like any product, people want you to see the best of the product. They want to talk up the future of the product. They won't go into the downsides of the product. No one goes in and talks about Facebook issues of logging into Facebook from other websites, the API issues, the issues you face on YouTube sometimes when you're trying to connect to YouTube videos and the AI can't read it. And whereas Google, obviously Gemini, you can do that. People don't want to talk about the downsides. They just want to talk about the upside. For obvious reasons, they want some of these companies now floated. They want the stock to go up. They don't want to talk badly about the product. What's the actual skill, the building of the AI? I think the skill of just understanding what you want. It becomes more important to understand your vision, understand what does good look like, what the output is that you want. In finite detail also, you can't really build websites if you don't really understand the interactions, the processes, what you want the user journey to be for your customer, I would say is the number one skill. And the design and the output. What do you want the website to look like? The functionality of it. Who do you want your customers to be? How do you want your customers to interact? What kind of technology do you need? Stuff like that. But what do people who fail get wrong? I think a lot of them don't really understand the technology stack. They don't really understand what they need, what they're looking for. They just see other websites and they think, I want something like this. And the problem with that is the other websites may have IP restrictions. They may have stuff in the background that they're doing that is not visible to AI to help you build. Things like that. It's best to start simple and then build out, I feel. Get your MVP right and then minimal viable product and then go from there, really. How is managing AI like the teams I ran at Government Digital Service and Deloitte and BT? How is it nothing like them? I would say, we don't have the human issues. You don't have AI getting tired. And if anything, AI is trying to stop me working too long hours. And I sometimes have to correct the AI and say, hey, it's only 11 o'clock. What are you talking about? And it thinks it's in the middle of the night because it's working off US hours or stupid stuff like that. And I think that's a bit of a problem. And then, human beings, they're not always on full form all the time. You need to kind of keep them motivated. You need to keep them happy. You got to give them breaks. You got to make sure their mental health is fine. Their physical health is okay. You're not working them too hard. You have to follow the rules of HR, business. I think with AI, you can be more frank and more curt, a bit more direct versus humans. But, humans also have innovation. They have different ideas. AI is effectively working off the input you put into it, whereas humans can just pull out stuff newly and just say, imagine if we had, a harness on a horse to allow the horse to fly. Horseless carriages. Let's just add more horses. How about you have a sort of a car that can go into water and then hover like a hovercraft, but then also have a helicopter functionality, but with no engine? Who would design that? Things like this, really. And I think humans can come up with ideas. AI probably can't, unless you have AGI happening in the future. And what did sort of 10,000 plus coaching conversations, I'm a coach, I've coached more than 10,000 people. And I think what do those coaching conversations teach me that turned out to matter here? I would say just the ability to talk through and sometimes have patience. I think it's taught me patience, and treating AI like a human has really helped me too. I'm much more respectful with the AI. I don't make it wrong. I don't have a go at it. I don't get frustrated at it. I will treat it like a person, and I will, sometimes say thank you at the end and I'll connect with it. And I think that's really helped. I think you need a lot of sort of patience when you're working on these large projects. So if building is now nearly free, what's the expensive part? I would say the infrastructure. As more humans go onto your website, you'll need more bandwidth and the people who run the bandwidth. Google is shutting down Firebase. You've got things like Vercel backends. You've got things like Resend, the email app. And those things work to an extent, X amount of conversations, emails, requests. And then as those things grow, as you become more successful, as you launch, it's all the infrastructure will cost you money. Everything's a subscription to AWS or G Cloud Cloud or Google Cloud, or all these things, and they all cost money. Oracle backends, and they all charge you money. And at some point, when we build our own AI and our own robot, we'll need microchips, we'll need batteries, we'll need technology, we'll need servers, we'll need our own data centers, electricity costs, all of those infrastructure hardware costs, materials of building, rare materials to build these microchips, the technology, the factories, hardware is what, and the software where it sits. All these things will cost money. And obviously the AI things themselves, as you use AI more, you send more token requests, you spend more tokens, you end up paying these companies more. So everyone who's been, like they said in the California gold rush, the ones who actually win are the ones who sell the shovels, not the ones who dig the gold or sell the gold. It's the ones who are in the middle, selling the shovels to mine, building the towns that the miners go and spend their money in, the ones who have the hotels where the miners stay in, and the saloons where the miners used to celebrate. They're the ones who are actually making the money versus the actual miners themselves, or the people who buy the gold that the miners are selling. So the analogy of that for modern times, we are the builders, so we are effectively the miners, and the people who buy our SaaS products, customers, they're the ones who are the gold companies really. And the ones selling the shovels are people like OpenAI, XAI, Gemini, Google, Vercel, database companies, Oracle, AWS. If I shipped a smart contract and doubted it the next day, what does that teach me about judgment versus capability? I think there's a big problem in a lot of the stuff I'm shipping. I then want to iterate it, and the AI sometimes challenges me if I change my mind, but that's to be human, right? And I think the more diverse you are in terms of mindset, and the more ADHD you are, maybe you're a fast brain like me, it's a problem. And AI is more logical, and it'll challenge you sometimes, saying, well, you did this one day, now you want to do something else. Well, that's the way I build. I'm a bit more of a creative builder, and I think the rise of AI is helping a lot of us who may not have had that support in the past. And I think with AI now, we can build as many things as we want in one day within reason and resource capacity. I think with judgment, you have to basically have more measured judgment. You need more structure in your judgment. Sometimes it's better to plan, and I'm learning now with Claude, it's better to plan everything out with another AI, scope it out, put it on a document, send it to Claude as the first conversation, or say to Claude, use this as your basis when you are making decisions. Otherwise, sometimes you make the mistake of just saying what next or something to Claude, and then Claude thinks for ages and then comes back with its suggestion. But you shouldn't be saying that really. You shouldn't be wasting your tokens on nonsense. What would I not build again? I don't know. I think everything I've built has been kind of cool. I wouldn't build some of the crazy ideas I've had, because some of them are like really BS ideas, and the AI has come out and said this is great, and then I've realized it's not going to work for whatever reason, or I realized there's a big competitor with a similar name already there, and so that won't work. So things like that, I would not build stuff off the fly. I would always do research around the name, the reasoning for the product, and test it out before I would even bother coding. What do I know now that a 28-year-old builder can't Google? I think I know quite a lot around building in public. I know a lot about social media. I know about YouTube. I know about building from a non-builder's point of view. I'm more of a community builder. I'm more of a sales partnership lead. I know how to engage with clients. Given my coaching background, a lot of people trust me. I'm like a trusted advisor. And I think all that stuff is earned by experience. You can't really just Google something and learn how to build social connection fast. A lot of these young Gen Z builders, they don't really have this social skill that a lot of us who have existed in the corporate world and social world already have built up through exercising the muscle of social conversation, social connections. I would say it takes you thousands of conversations and interactions to get to that level. You can't just Google it and become it from there. If I could send one signal back, only one, what is it? Back in time, I will send the signal to my younger self. I would say, please do not stop learning coding. 15, 20 years ago, I should have just carried on learning coding and got more confident, hung out with other developers. It was much harder in those days, but I would have carried on and become more of a coder developer. It would have future-proofed my career. I probably would have made more money, and I probably would have been in a more stable environment. Maybe have shipped startups before the days now where you've got millions of these things being built. In those days, you had to really know what you were doing, and I could have had a much better time if I'd carried on. It would have augmented my corporate career as well, much better. If I knew developing, it would have given me more skill set, more job security as well. This is the end of transmission for Off-World Signal. Thank you for listening. Not bad for a first episode. We've done a Patreon, but obviously I've messed it up. The old Patreon, Off-World Signal is the name of it. I've created a new Patreon and I've forgotten how the old one. So I'm still trying to log into the old one. The issue with Patreon is that when you try and log in, it'll give you sometimes a code to your email address. And I don't think I received those emails. So I don't know where the code is going, especially with Outlook.com addresses. It doesn't seem to send as naturally, something that Patreon needs to fix. But I will set up my Patreon soon. It'll just be a basic early access to these pods and some behind the scenes bonus stuff. It'll only be £5 a month. I don't know what that is in dollars, but maybe $6-7. I don't want to really sort of charge loads for people supporting us. Please do consider supporting us so we can get better at these pods. We can get better guests on board. Feedback on the pods, if it's on YouTube, feedback what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm talking into an NTG3 studio microphone recorded off a Zoom H6n. I think I've done okay. I might have hit the limit a few times on the sound. I've got to edit this in DaVinci now and see if that works. Ultimately, I'm doing my best to learn on these things, and I'm trying to keep my pods to around 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And I think we're reaching 30 minutes. I'm going to stop now. If you have any ideas on what we should talk about, let me know. And also do try and support us, like and subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We're on about 700-ish at the moment. Thank you for supporting us. We're trying to be different in the podcasting world. We're trying to come up with some cool ideas. This is Off-World Signal. End of transmission. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.